The trouble began the moment the stagecoach came thundering into Promise Creek, kicking up a cloud of red Montana dust, so thick it swallowed the whole street. People stopped what they were doing. Horses lifted their heads. And on the wooden platform outside the Overland station, 4 brothers stood shoulder to shoulder, staring at the approaching coach with the kind of tight-fisted nerves men got when they were about to change their lives forever. Bo Dalton, the eldest, kept his hat pulled low, but nothing could hide the worry etched into his face. At 30, he carried the weight of the Dalton ranch on his broad back. It had been his idea for all 4 of them to send letters to the matrimonial agency back east. He said they needed women who could build a home, raise children, and steady the ranch's future. But now, watching that coach roll in, even Bo wondered if he had just made the biggest mistake of his life. Beside him, Finn Dalton shifted his weight like he was standing on hot coals. He was the charming one, the smooth talker who could win a card game with a smile. He had picked his bride based on a single line in her description, hoping for a witty woman to make long days less dull. Now he tugged at his shirt collar like the Montana sun had suddenly doubled in heat. Owen, the quiet scholar, stood slightly apart, his fingers moving nervously along the spine of a book tucked under his arm. He wasn't made for bold choices or big risks. Yet he had taken one by choosing a woman who said she loved poetry and pressed flowers. He feared she'd step off that coach, take one look at the rough Dalton ranch, and turn right back around. Reed Dalton, the youngest at barely 20, practically bounced on his heels. Hope shone plain on his face. He had chosen a bride simply because she sounded kind. He had spent nights dreaming about meeting her, imagining a soft smile and warm eyes that made the world feel gentler. The coach rolled to a stop with a heavy groan. The horses snorted and tossed their heads. The old driver, Gus, spit a stream of tobacco and shouted, "Daltons, got a special delivery for you." 4 of them. Bo's eyebrows drew together. 4. Only 3 brides were supposed to arrive today. His own bride was due next month. He stepped forward, ready to correct a mistake, but the coach door opened before he could speak. A young woman stepped out first. She had gentle brown eyes and a hopeful glow on her face. She looked around the dusty street as if it were full of wonder instead of tired buildings and clattering wagons. Reed's heart nearly burst. She was exactly as he had pictured, soft, kind, and full of quiet light. She turned and helped another woman down. This one moved with calm grace, holding a small portfolio against her chest like it contained her soul. Her eyes drifted over everything with gentle curiosity. Owen felt something warm shift in his chest. She looked like someone who loved quiet mornings and old books. Then came the third. Her steps were firm, her chin high, her gaze as sharp as a hawk's. She looked like the kind of woman who wouldn't flinch at a stampeding bull. Finn felt a grin pull at his mouth. She had fire. He liked fire. But before the brothers could speak, a 4th figure stepped into the doorway. The oldest, the leader. Her dark hair was streaked with sun, her eyes steady and deep. She held herself like a woman who had carried more than her share of burdens, yet refused to bow to them. Bo straightened, surprised by the strength in her gaze. She looked right at him as if she already knew he was the one she'd have to reckon with. Have you ever taken a risk so big it changed your entire life? Have you ever stood at a crossroads and chosen the path everyone said was impossible? The 4 women walked toward the brothers. As they lined up, the truth became impossible to miss. They had the same dark hair, the same high cheekbones, the same quiet pride. They were sisters. Gus let out a low whistle. Well, I'll be. Like a matched set of china dolls, all addressed to the Dalton ranch. The brothers stared, stunned. Bo finally found his voice. "Ma'am," he said to the eldest, "there's been a misunderstanding. We were expecting 3 women, not—" "There's no misunderstanding," the eldest said calmly. "My name is Eleanor Vance. These are my sisters, Isabelle, Rosalind, and Genevieve. You sent for brides." We answered. "But I didn't send for—" Bo began. But she cut him off with a look so tired and honest it froze the words in his throat. The matrimonial agency made an error in printing. They listed 4 Dalton brothers seeking brides. Her voice softened. "We saw a chance to stay together. We took it." Behind her, the 3 younger sisters stood close, their shoulders touching. They were worn from travel but united in a way that made it clear they feared being separated more than anything else in the world. A hot wind swept across the platform, carrying dust and the faint smell of horses. For a long moment, no one spoke. Bo looked at the women's meager luggage, their whole lives packed into a few trunks. He saw fear in their eyes, but also courage. He felt a weight settle on his chest heavier than any ranch burden he'd ever carried. "Gus," Bo said finally, clearing his throat, "load their trunks. They can rest at the ranch for the night." He paused. "Then we'll talk." It wasn't a promise, but it wasn't rejection either. For the Vance sisters, it was hope. For the Dalton brothers, it was the beginning of something they never could have planned. The Dalton ranch woke the next morning to a kind of quiet no one knew how to name. It wasn't tension exactly, and it wasn't peace either. It was something caught in between, like the moment right before a storm decides whether to break or drift away. Inside the log house, the four Vance sisters moved with the soft grace of women who had lived hard lives, but learned to keep going anyway. They worked without fuss, trying to show they were willing to pull their own weight. But the brothers were a different story. 8 people in a house built for 4 felt like trying to squeeze a wagon through a doorway. Reed nearly walked straight into a wall because Jenny smiled at him while pouring water, then dropped a plate because Izzy brushed past him. Owen couldn't seem to read a single page without glancing at Rose every 3 minutes. And Bo watched everything and said nothing, though his jaw stayed tight from dawn to dusk. By noon, the Dalton ranch had become a strange dance between 4 determined sisters and 4 confused men who didn't know how to behave around them. The Vance sisters worked hard, harder than the brothers expected. Eleanor took command of the kitchen with a quiet authority. Soon the smell of warm bread drifted through the house, mixing with the sharp scent of pine logs burning in the stove. The Dalton brothers hadn't tasted anything like it in years. When Bo sat at the table that first morning and took a bite, his expression softened for the first time since their arrival, but he didn't say a word. Isabelle, Izzy, was already arguing with Finn out by the barn. She had her sleeves rolled, her hair tied back, and her eyes blazing like she was ready to wrestle a bull if she had to. "You're holding the pitchfork wrong," she said sharply. "I've been working barns since I was old enough to walk," Finn shot back. "And yet you're still doing it wrong." Finn stared at her, bewildered but also strangely impressed. Rose spent most of her time with Owen, not because she sought him out, but because he kept drifting toward wherever she happened to be. She had set up a small space near the fireplace to sketch. Her pencil moved with delicate strokes as she captured scenes from their new surroundings. Owen couldn't help watching her, amazed at how her quiet presence softened the whole room. Jenny followed Reed around the ranch with bright, genuine curiosity. She asked about everything: the animals, the land, the stars over Montana. Reed answered all her questions with a proud smile, tripping over his own feet more than once when she laughed. It didn't take long for the brothers to realize something important. These women weren't helpless. They weren't strangers anymore. Little by little, they were becoming part of the ranch. By the end of the week, the house looked cleaner than it had in years. The barns were more organized. The meals tasted like something from a dream. And every night, all 8 of them gathered in the main room for supper. But every night, too, the same unspoken question hung like smoke in the air. What happens after the month is over? No one dared ask it out loud, not until the threat arrived. It started with the weekly mail delivery. Owen returned from town with a single letter, clutched tightly in his hand. It was addressed to the Vance sisters. Eleanor took it with a carefully trembling breath. The moment she saw the Boston postmark, all the color drained from her face. The sisters hurried into their room and closed the door. Their voices dropped to a low whisper. When they came out, they looked shaken in a way none of the brothers had ever seen. Bo finally caught Eleanor alone in the kitchen that evening. She stood by the stove, staring at the fire as if she could see something far beyond it. "That letter wasn't good news," Bo said quietly. Eleanor's eyes flicked up to his. For a moment she hesitated, fighting some internal battle. Then she looked away. "It doesn't concern you," she said softly. Bo stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Everything that happens under my roof concerns me." Eleanor's hands tightened around the edge of the table. "We just need more time," she whispered. "Please, just a little more time." Her eyes were tired, frightened, desperate. Something in Beau's chest shifted. He didn't understand the whole situation, but he understood enough. Whoever they were running from, they feared him more than anything else in the world. "Eleanor," he said firmly, "whatever trouble is coming, we'll handle it." Her breath caught, and for the first time she looked like she might break. But she didn't. She lifted her chin and held his gaze. "We don't want to bring danger to your home. It's already here," Beau said. "But I'm not turning you out." Outside, the wind swept across the land, carrying the smell of dry earth and pine. Somewhere in the distance, a coyote cried, a haunting sound, a warning, a sign that their peace would not last, because trouble was coming. And it came in the form of a stranger in a city suit riding into Promise Creek, asking questions about 4 young women from Boston. "This man," Owen said later that night, his voice tense as he returned from town. "He was asking about you. He's not from around here." The sisters froze. Eleanor's face went white. Izzy's jaw clenched. Rose's hand shook. Jenny grabbed Reed's sleeve. Beau looked from one frightened face to the next. "Who is he?" Beau demanded. Eleanor swallowed hard. "A Pinkerton detective," she whispered. The room fell silent. Even the wind seemed to stop. And in that moment, Dalton realized the truth. Whatever these sisters were hiding, whatever danger chased them across the country, it had finally caught up. The knock on the Dalton ranch door came early the next morning, sharp and commanding, like someone who believed he already owned whatever waited on the other side. The brothers were already at the table, eating quietly. The sisters froze where they stood. Every sound in the room seemed to stop breathing. Beau rose first. Finn's hand drifted toward the pistol hanging on the wall. Owen stood protectively beside Rose. Reed stepped in front of Jenny without thinking. Beau pulled open the door. A man in a bowler hat stood on the porch. His suit was too neat for Montana. His boots were too clean. His eyes far too watchful. He nodded once, polite but cold. "Mr. Dalton," he said. "My name is Mr. Davies. I'm with the Pinkerton Detective Agency." Inside, Eleanor's breath caught in her throat. Izzy's fists tightened. Rose backed into the shadows. Jenny grabbed the chair behind her. Beau didn't move. "What's your business?" he asked. Davies removed a folded paper from his coat. "I'm looking for 4 missing women from Boston. Their guardian claims they've been taken against their will. I have reason to believe they're on your property." Finn snorted. "They didn't seem unwilling when they cleaned our house and saved us from poisoning ourselves." Davies didn't smile. "I'm not here to argue," the detective said. "Either they come with me now, or I return with the sheriff." Beau didn't turn around. He didn't need to. He could feel the fear behind him like a living thing. "They aren't missing," Beau said, "and they aren't leaving." Davies raised a brow. "Are you refusing a lawful investigation?" Beau stepped forward until he stood inches from the man. "I'm saying no one takes anything from this ranch unless they choose to go." The detective watched him with the blank, patient stare of a man who had stood between angry families before. Finally, his gaze drifted past Beau into the house. "Ladies," he said, "you may come forward if you wish." Eleanor stepped out. Her jaw trembled, but her voice didn't. "We aren't missing," she said. "We left Boston willingly. We traveled here on our own. We are not property." Davies studied her face, then the faces of her sisters. He saw real fear. He also saw real courage. "You understand," he said slowly, "that your guardian is a powerful man. He claims to care for your well-being." Izzy stepped forward, fire flashing in her eyes. "He doesn't care," she said. "He owns." "There's a difference." Rose nodded behind her. "He destroyed our father. He wanted to control us too," Jenny whispered. "We came here to be safe." The detective listened. Really listened. He turned back to Beau. "I'll be in town for a few days," Davies said. "I'll conduct my own inquiries. Until then, I suggest everyone stays put." He tipped his hat and walked away. The moment he rode off, the sisters sagged with relief. But the fear didn't vanish. It settled deeper, because the detective was only the beginning. The real danger was coming next, and it arrived 3 days later. The rumble of wagon wheels rolled through Promise Creek. People on the street stepped back as the wealthy stranger from Boston climbed down from a rented buckboard. Thaddeus Sterling. His hair was streaked with gray. His suit was expensive. His smile was polished poison. He bought drinks for the men at the saloon. He spoke kindly to the shopkeepers. He waved at children. But every word he spoke carried the same message. The Vance sisters belonged to him. By sundown, he had bought the Dalton ranch mortgage. By the next morning, he had convinced half the town he was here to rescue 4 helpless girls stolen by desperate cowboys. The truth didn't matter. Power did. And Thaddeus Sterling had plenty of it. Sterling and the sheriff arrived at the Dalton ranch the next afternoon. Davies followed them at a distance, his face unreadable. The sisters stood together on the porch. The brothers stood in front of them. Sterling smiled like a man greeting old friends. "Girls," he said warmly, "I've come to bring you home." Izzy's glare could have set fire to a barn. Eleanor lifted her chin. "We are home." Sterling unfolded a document. Crisp, official, terrifying. "A guardianship order from Boston." He said proudly, "You are under my care. These men have no right to keep you." The sheriff cleared his throat. "It seems valid." Both stepped forward. "They're here by choice." "Choice?" Sterling laughed. "These girls are penniless. Frightened. Confused. They don't know what they want." Owen spoke next, calm but firm. "Eleanor is 25. Izzy 23. Rose 22. Jenny 19. They aren't children." Sterling's smile vanished. "These women," he said coldly, "belong with me." "No," Bo said. "They belong where they feel safe." Sterling's eyes narrowed. "Sheriff, remove them." The sheriff hesitated. Everyone turned as Mr. Davies stepped forward. "Before you act," the detective said, "you should know the Pinkerton agency is reopening an investigation into Mr. Sterling's dealings. There are inconsistencies." Sterling's face drained of color. "That's nonsense. Lies." And Davies continued, "There is evidence the sister's father may have been falsely accused. A missing ledger. Names. Dates." Sterling staggered back. Davies looked directly at him. "You may have bought influence, sir, but you cannot buy the law." The sheriff stepped away from Sterling. The fight was over. Sterling realized it. He turned his rage on Eleanor. "This isn't finished," he hissed. "It is," Bo said. "Now leave." Thaddeus Sterling mounted his horse and rode off, defeated. Not by gunfire, but by truth. The fear that had followed the Vance sisters for years finally lifted into the open sky and drifted away on the Montana wind. They were free. That night, the ranch was filled with laughter for the first time since the sisters arrived. The danger had passed. The fear was gone. One by one, the brothers found the sisters they had grown to care for. Finn and Izzy argued softly under the stars until arguing turned into smiling, and smiling turned into a kiss. Owen and Rose stood by the firelight, gently holding hands as if they had always belonged together. Reed and Jenny sat in the garden they'd planted, promising a future as bright as the young shoots growing from the soil. And inside the kitchen, Bo found Eleanor leaning against the table, exhausted but free. He stepped close and spoke softly. "You asked for a month," he said. "Take all the time you need. This is your home." Eleanor looked into his steady eyes that had protected her, challenged her, believed in her. "This is my home," she whispered. He took her hands in his. "Then stay," Bo said. "Not out of fear. Not out of need. Stay because you want to." Her answer came with tears and a trembling smile. "I want to." He pulled her into his arms as the lantern light flickered around them. Not a bargain. Not a contract. Just love. In the heart of Montana. For brothers and 4 sisters built a life stronger than any danger that had chased them. Their story spread across Promise Creek, then across the territory, becoming a legend of the West. A story of courage. A story of family. A story of love found in the most unexpected place. The Dalton Vance families didn't just survive the frontier. They built a dynasty. Do you believe that sometimes the biggest mistakes lead to the greatest blessings? That family isn't always about blood, but about who stands beside you when trouble comes? This story reminds us that love doesn't always arrive the way we plan, and sometimes for women running from danger find 4 men who've been waiting to protect them all along. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to hear more tales from the Wild West, stories of mail-order brides who became partners, families built from courage, and love that conquered fear. Share in the comments if you believe the best things in life are the ones you never saw coming.